In this video, we're talking about solving equations with variables on both sides. For the last little bit, we've talked about solving like a one-step or two-step equation, even multi-step equations. And then we've also talked about combining like terms. Now, there's a couple of rules that I want you guys to remember. Only do the opposite operation meaning add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So add, subtract, multiply, or divide if you are moving it across an equal sign. If you're not moving it across an equal sign, then you do what the numbers tell you to do, just like when we were solving an expression, right? So our expression would be like negative 2x plus 3x. Because we're not moving it across an equal sign, we do what our numbers tell us to do. So negative 2 plus 3, that would give us a 1x. That's what I mean by only do the opposite operation if you are moving it across an equal sign. If you're not, then you need to just do what the numbers tell you to do. And you can only combine like terms. And remember, whenever you're solving an equation, you are trying to get that variable alone. So if I have an equation like this, 9y is equal to 5y plus 24. I see that my equal sign is right there. So normally we would have one variable and we would isolate that variable. Well, in this case, we have two with the same variable, so they are like terms, and we have to combine them, but we have to move it across an equal to sign. Now, because we want to get our variable alone, we want to move this term over here so that my numbers are on one side and my variables are on the other side. So we are getting rid of a positive 5y. We don't want to separate them yet. When we want to separate our 5 and our y, that's when we'll do the opposite of multiply. Right now, we're trying to move both of them together as a whole term. So that's why we're going to do a minus 5y. So because I subtracted 5y on this side, I need to subtract 5y on this side. A positive 5y minus 5y is 0. It is gone. I don't have to worry about it. I still have a positive 24 on this side. So that stays, is equal to 9y minus 5y. I'm doing what the numbers tell me to do at this point. They're on the same side now. I can do what it tells me to do. And remember, you always want to put whatever you're moving over behind what's already there, okay? So 9 minus 5 is 4y. Now I am trying to separate my number and my variable. When I try and separate that, I'm doing the opposite of multiplication. So I would divide by 4. I would divide by 4. Y is equal to 24 divided by 4 is 6. And that would make both of these sides the same. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna do another one. All right. So if we have 6v plus 2 is equal to 9v plus 14. So this one's a little bit different because I don't just have one term on one side. I now have two terms on both sides. My equal sign is right there. So if I ever move anything across that equal sign, I need to do the opposite. So I want to get my variables together. The first thing you want to do is get your variables together, because then you can start taking things away from that side and that will isolate it. That will get it alone. So if I minus 6v, I would minus 6v over here. A positive 6v minus 6v is 0, it's gone. Because I did it over here, I have to do it over here. That's what keeps an equation equal. So now I have 2 left over here. 9 minus 6 is a 3v, and I would add 14. So this is now a two-step equation. I get rid of that stranger, that furthest thing away from the variable. 2 minus 14 is a negative 12, is equal to 3v. And now I am trying to separate my 3 and my variable, so that's why I would undo this multiplication with division. And same thing over here, I would divide. keeping that equal. Negative 12 divided by 3, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. 12 divided by 3 is 4. V is equal to a negative 4. All right? So that's when you have variable and terms on both sides. The next thing I want to show you guys is when we're dealing with a fraction. So if I have a negative 3 halves x minus 4 is equal to 5/4 x minus 7/3. Remember, we've talked about the fractions. We can get rid of our fractions if we get a common denominator. That's a 2. This is really a 1. Any number, we can put it over 1 and make it a fraction, a 4 and a 3. If you don't automatically see what your least common multiple would be, you start with your biggest number, so 4, and you start doing multiples of your biggest number. And then you check. Okay, 4, that is divisible by 2. Is it divisible by 3? No. 8, divisible by 2. Is it divisible by 3? No. 12, divisible by 2. Is it divisible by 3? Yes. Once I find what all of them are divisible by, I know my least common multiple. So I have to get the denominators to be 12. This first one, I get 2 to be 12 by timesing it by 6. So I have to do that to both of those. I get 1 to be 12 by timesing it by 12. I get 4 to be 12 by timesing it by 3. And I get 3 to be 12 by timesing it by 4. Now, I am doing the same thing to the top that I'm doing to the bottom so that I do not change the value. I am manipulating what it looks like, but I am not changing the value. So when I go through and do this, 3 times 6 is 18 over 12x. It'll still be a negative. Negative 4 times 12 is 48 over 12. 3 times 5 is 15 over 12x. Negative 7 times 4 is a negative 28 over 12. Now that I have a common denominator, I can kind of disregard it. So negative 8x minus 48 is equal to 15x minus 28. Watch those signs, please. So now we are going to do what we did last time. You'll notice I have 2 variables. I have to move it across the equal sign, and I have 2 numbers, and I got to get those together. First thing you should do is move your variables, because then you know where your variable is at, and you can move your numbers away from it. So if I move this negative 18x over here, I am working with a positive number, and I like that. If I moved my 15x over here, that's totally okay. I would just be working with a negative number. The signs would work themselves out in the end, and you're okay. So 15 plus 18 is 33x. I still have a negative 48 on this side. It's equal to a negative 28. So now I would add 28. So over here I would add 28. That's gone. Over here, negative 48 plus 28 is going to give me a negative 20. I look at it and I can see that I have 2 opposite signs. I have a negative and a positive. So I know I'm finding the difference of these numbers. The difference of the numbers is 20, and it's going to be a negative because my bigger number was a negative. And that is equal to 33x. So to get rid of the 33, I would divide by 33, and I would divide by 33. This gives me a 1, so I still have an x there, and it is equal to a negative 20 over 33. That won't reduce at all. That right there is going to be my answer. Totally okay. If you have any questions on any of those, please go back and rewatch them. They will help.